The stories in this video are not stories at all, but articles. Articles about paranormal events that were published in real newspapers 100 years ago.
I often wonder about possession. Why would a ghost want to possess someone? What does it feel like? How much is the person being possessed aware of? In today's article, we hear about a possession that takes place in San Jose in the 1870s.
There is a girl in San Jose that is being possessed. When the possessing spirit was being questioned, it answered through the mouth of the little girl and said,
I was what you call a bushwhacker, and was killed by this girl's father. And, as I still feel a spirit to rebel against him, I have taken control of her to further my designs. I have nothing against the girl and intend to do her no harm.
The possessing spirit continued on, explaining things that happened between itself and the little girl's relatives. These events have been confirmed true by the little girl's family. The little girl's relatives sent her to a private asylum in Alameda County, thinking she would pose less of a threat to herself under the asylum's care. After spending a little time at the asylum, the ghost left her, and she is no longer disturbed. But it appears the girl's father has now been taken over by this revengeful monster, as he is acting exactly as she was before she was admitted.
I wonder why the spirit didn't just go after the dad first. Maybe it was important to the spirit for the family to see he meant the girl no harm, but intended to offer the dad great personal violence. If he just jumped into the dad first, everyone might just assume he was an evil spirit, and not just a ghost possessing a person that killed him. Really, the dad might be the bad guy here. Hey, have you ever thought about how being a bad guy could be, well, you know, bad? Well, if I got a deal for you, welcome to the Church of Me. Send me $1 a month on Patreon and get that good feeling of being a good person. Your dollar will go to my food, shelter, and to buying presents for my family, just like a real church. So don't delay. Give yourself the warm fuzzies by sending me $1 today. Info in the description. Turns out that ghost possessing people in the article was pretty lazy. The dad only had to do 10 push-ups to exercise him out. Get it? Exercise? I think it must be hard to come back as a ghost. Otherwise, everyone would do it. That's why when we hear about a ghost, we often hear about crimes of passion and unfinished business. But we aren't all built the same. In today's article, we get to learn of an old miser that loved his money so much, he may have even come back for it.
On a lonely road in the suburbs of Cleveland stands a solitary house that is the talk of the neighbors due to the supernatural events taking place inside of it. The house is currently occupied by a family, but they are currently preparing to leave. At all times of the day and night, sounds can be heard in different rooms of the house. At times, a banging noise can be heard so loud that the sound frightens the people in a neighboring house, many rods away. The house has been watched several times now to see if the hauntings are authentic, and as of right now, there appears to be no alternate explanation for the going-ons in the house. The house was previously lived in by an old miser. While no one disagrees that the old man was greedy and hoarded money, some neighbors claim he had a bad reputation for other reasons as well. Now he walks the house, banging on the walls. Neighbors that knew the man well speculate he is trying to draw attention to a large sum of gold that mysteriously disappeared around when he died.
Poor guy. I guess no one told him he couldn't take his money with him. He must have really loved gold. Think about it. I've known people that have loved their husbands, wives, families, and they didn't get to come back. But this guy gets his money stolen, and he gets to make the trip? Is he part of the ghost IRS? Too bad he wasn't a Patreon. Then he could have enjoyed bonus videos while he was alive and spent time making trouble with me. If bonus videos and making trouble with Papa Bones sounds like something you're interested in, join me on Patreon for just $1 a month. www.patreon.com/superhorrorshow. So it turns out the old miser was only trying to get the attention of the woman living in what was his house. Her name was Penny. Huh? Huh? Aw, come on, guys. I thought that joke was priceless. There's a time in everyone's life when they finally know everything. For me, it was when I was 15. It was great. I was invincible. Then I got dumped, and it was invincibility over. And I knew nothing again. That's roughly how it goes for most of us. But there are some people that never grow out of it. Full-grown adults running around acting like they know what's going on, even though they don't have a clue. Hey! Pay attention to me! I'm talking to you! I'm a good pay attentioner, the best pay attentioner. Ask anyone. Anyone will tell you. I'm a billionaire. Who can afford to pay more attention than me? Not Sleepy Joe here. Also, did you notice how big my hands are? And another thing.
Ulster County appears to be a preferred place for ghosts to haunt. Just last winter, there was excitement about a haunting at the Dunn residence, but the most recent haunting is different. It is not occurring at one residence, but appears to be moving about the neighborhood as it pleases. Within Ulster County is a thinly settled farm town situated at the foot of the Shawangunk Mountains, called Log Town. In this town is a family named Rose, and Lewis Rose was its head, known as Old Man Rose to his neighbors. Old Man Rose was an outspoken and eccentric man. He despised the Christian religion and all religious instruction. He would often carry on about how he didn't fear hell or any punishment, and insisted there would not be a clergyman officiating his funeral. He was also illiterate and could not eloquently explain his thoughts on any complex matter. He did, however, have one secret fear: the fear of being buried alive. Approximately 1 year ago, Old Man Rose became very ill. In the hours leading up to his death, he carried on, shouting and cursing and thrashing about in his bed, but in his last moments, he became strangely calm and called his wife to him. He told her Satan was after him, that he could hear the rattling of the chains. Then he made her a promise: if he could find a way to break free from the chains, he would come back. He was still terrified by the idea of being buried alive, so he asked his wife to keep his body for 8 days, then place his body in the field for the crows to eat. His wife and friends tried to oblige, but they had no way to preserve the old man's body. His body began decomposing almost immediately after death, but by the 5th day, the smell was so unbearable that he was buried. Now, the promise Old Man Rose made to his wife about breaking free from Satan and returning was known only to the Rose family. They didn't tell anyone, nor did they look for Old Man Rose, as they expected him to act as all other dead people act. Now, a year later, many people believe he has come back. His ghost has reappeared recently. It was night, but a full moon, when a member of the Oddfellows saw Old Man Rose on the road. When he noticed the ghost, it was less than 10 feet away from him and facing him. The man was from town and had known Old Man Rose for years. He is sure, because of how close he was and how well he could see due to the moonlight, that the ghost was Old Man Rose. Before the man could speak, Old Man Rose vanished. A few days later, a woman claimed she saw Old Man Rose in her house, and she was willing to testify under oath about the haunting. So far, Old Man Rose has been seen at 5 different locations by 5 different people.
So this guy was kind of a jerk. First he's all, God, it's fake. Then when he's dying, he's all, I'm not scared, but oh no, Satan is coming for me. But also, I'm still not scared. Then he comes back, and instead of visiting his wife, that was probably too good for him anyways, he meets up with some old friends on the road and visits some woman's house? When his wife dies, I hope she lets him have it good for this. Speaking of giving it to someone good, do you wish you could throw a pie at Papa Bone's face? Well, I've got great news for you. You can. It's easy. Just join Patreon. I'll use that $1 a month to throw pie, cake, and sandwiches at my face. I won't be throwing it very fast, and will be aiming mostly for my mouth hole. But still, it counts. If you think me eating is a good idea, head over to patreon.com now and sign up for just $1 a month. So eventually Old Man Rose did go back to see his wife, but by the time he got there, she was so angry she threw salt at him, creating little holes in his ghost body. And now, even though he doesn't believe in God, he's known as the Holy Ghost. Have you ever considered how different people are? I've seen people claim their house was haunted whenever the wind howled or a floorboard creaked. And others could look a ghost straight in the eye and still claim it's not real. In tonight's article, we meet a family that doesn't believe in ghosts. At least, not for now.
It is believed that there is a house in Chartiers Township that is haunted. According to locals, at the witching hour, spirits can be heard walking all over the house and even on its roof. The ghost is called Chartier's Ghost, and it is said to have many forms. It has presented itself as both a black cloud and as a female figure wearing long clothes that drag across the floor. The house is older and in poor condition. It looks like the sort of house that one would expect to be haunted. A family has recently moved in from out of town without knowing about the hauntings. The father of the family who rented the house is a laborer in the city, and his wife and family are generally left alone. The first night they occupied the house, no noises were heard, and it's presumed that if the spirits did appear, the family, being exhausted from moving, slept soundly and did not hear them. After spending one night at the new home, the father went to the city for work, and the wife and children were left alone. That night, the spirits appeared. They glided from one room to another, upstairs and downstairs, through the hall, over the roof, out of the windows, across the yard. Anywhere and everywhere they could go to create the most surprise and terror. The lady of the house was courageous and did not panic at the happenings, but instead planned to scare off whatever was causing the madness. The next day, she brought a ferocious dog to the house. With the dog being in the house, the wife and children felt safe and were sure there wouldn't be any trouble that night. But when the shadowy ghost appeared again, even the bold dog was afraid. His tail fell suddenly, and there was not any more fight or growl in him. Even after the dog hid from the ghost in fear, the lady of the house refused to believe that there was anything supernatural about the events. She decided she would stay in the house a few more days, expecting the mystery to clear up. She sent her husband a message, telling him of the strange occurrences and asking him to come home to see what was happening. The husband, much like his wife, did not believe in ghosts and was convinced all of the hauntings were nothing more than rats in imagination. Still, on the off chance someone was playing an ill-fitting prank on his family, he decided he would return home and invited a few of his workmates. That night the men were having a pleasant evening. They were laughing and drinking, carrying on about how they would like to have a drink with the ghost or speak with the ghosts that were haunting the house. Their merriment was ended when the sound of clanking chains was heard. One man got up quickly and said, "There must be something going on in the stables," so he left to look in on the horses, but he found everything was in its proper condition. Before the men could again start drinking and making merry, the ghost-like cloud appeared. For all the talk of wanting to have a drink with the ghost and speak with the ghost, the men said nothing. The father of the house declared, "Seeing is believing," and he immediately woke up his wife and children and took them from the house.
Whoa! Someone give those ghosts a badge for getting non-believers to believe. It's funny how that works out. The husband and his friends sitting around, wishing a ghost would come talk to them, drink with them, but then when it shows up, they all panic and run. It's because people don't think things through. Hearing a story is significantly less creepy than living it. Now the husband thinks everything through and is constantly scared. His wife thought teaching him to bake might help him relax, but he said even that was too whiskey. Get it? Whiskey?